Alexey Arkhipovich Leonov is a retired Soviet-Russian cosmonaut and Air Force Major General. On March 18, 1965, he became the first human to conduct extravehicular activity, exiting the capsule during the Voskhod 2 mission for a 12-minute spacewalk. Biography. Leonov was one of the 20 Soviet Air Force pilots selected to be part of the first cosmonaut group in 1960. Like all the Soviet cosmonauts, Leonov was a member of the Communist Party of the Soviet Union. His walk in space was originally to have taken place on the Vostok 11 mission, but this was cancelled, and the historic event happened on the Voskhod 2 flight instead. He was outside the spacecraft for 12 minutes and 9 seconds on March 18, 1965, connected to the craft by a 5.35-meter tether. At the end of the spacewalk, Leonov's spacesuit had inflated in the vacuum of space to the point where he could not re-enter the airlock. He opened a valve to allow some of the suit's pressure to bleed off and was barely able to get back inside the capsule. Leonov had spent 18 months undergoing intensive weightlessness training for the mission. As of March 2015, Leonov is the last survivor of the 5 cosmonauts in the Voskhod program. In 1968, Leonov was selected to be commander of a circumlunar Soyuz flight. Since all unmanned test flights of this project failed, and the Apollo 8 mission had already given that step in the space race to the United States, the flight was cancelled. He was also selected to be the first Soviet person to land on the Moon, aboard the LOKN-1 spacecraft. This project was also cancelled. Leonov was to have been commander of the 1971 Soyuz 11 mission to Salyut-1, the first manned space station, but his crew was replaced with the backup after the cosmonaut Valery Kibasov was suspected to have contracted tuberculosis. Leonov was to have commanded the next mission to Salyut-1, but this was scrapped after the deaths of the Soyuz 11 crew members, and the space station was lost. The next 2 Salyuts were lost at launch or failed soon after, and Leonov's crew stood by. By the time Salyut-4 reached orbit, Leonov had been switched to a more prestigious project. Leonov's second trip into space was similarly significant. He commanded the Soviet half of the 1975 Apollo-Soyuz mission Soyuz 19 the first joint space mission between the Soviet Union and the United States. From 1976 to 1982, Leonov was the commander of the cosmonaut team and deputy director of the Yuri Gagarin Cosmonaut Training Center, where he oversaw crew training. He also edited the cosmonaut newsletter Neptune. He retired in 1991. Leonov is an accomplished artist whose published books include albums of his artistic works and works he did in collaboration with his friend Andrei Sokolov. Leonov took colored pencils and paper into space, where he sketched the Earth and drew portraits of the Apollo astronauts who flew with him during the Apollo-Soyuz test project. Arthur C. Clarke wrote in his notes to 2010, Odyssey 2 that, after a 1968 screening of 2001, A Space Odyssey, Leonov pointed out to him that the alignment of the Moon, Earth, and Sun shown in the opening is essentially the same as that in Leonov's 1967 painting Near the Moon, although the painting's diagonal framing of the scene was not replicated in the film. Clarke kept an autographed sketch of this painting which Leonov made after the screening, hanging on his office wall. In 2001, he was a vice president of the Moscow-based Alpha Bank and an advisor to the first deputy of the board. In 2004, Leonov and former American astronaut David Scott began work on a dual biography history of the space race between the United States and the Soviet Union. Titled Two Sides of the Moon, Our Story of the Cold War Space Race, it was published in 2006. Neil Armstrong and Tom Hanks both wrote introductions to the book. Leonov was also a contributor to the 2007 book Into That Silent Sea by Colin Burgess and Francis French, which describes his life and career in space exploration. Honors and awards: twice Hero of the Soviet Union, Pilot Cosmonaut of the USSR, Order for Merit to the Fatherland, 4th Class, for his contribution to the state in the development of manned space flight, Order of Friendship, for outstanding contribution to the development of the national manned space flight and many years of fruitful social activities, 2 Orders of Lenin, Order of the Red Star, Order for Service to the Homeland in the Armed Forces of the USSR, 3rd Class, Jubilee Medal 20 Years of Victory in the Great Patriotic War 1941–1945, Jubilee Medal 40 Years of the Armed Forces of the USSR, Jubilee Medal 50 Years of the Armed Forces of the USSR, Jubilee Medal 60 Years of the Armed Forces of the USSR, Jubilee Medal 70 Years of the Armed Forces of the USSR, Medal Veteran of the Armed Forces of the USSR, Medals for Impeccable Service, 1st, 2nd and 3rd Classes, USSR State Prize, Lenin Komsomol Prize, for the book Album Man and the Universe, Honored Master of Sport of the USSR, Foreign Awards, Hero of Socialist Labor, Hero of Vietnam, Hero of Labor, Order of Karl Marx, Order of Georgy Dimitrov, Order of the Banner of the Hungarian People's Republic, Order of Merit, 3rd Class, for his significant personal contribution to the development of space industry, advances in the creation and implementation of space systems and technologies, professional excellence, Medal A. Becker. Order for Merit, 1st Class, Public Organizations, Gold Medal Partisan, Ludwig Nobel Prize, Order of Saint Constantine the Great, Order Golden Star. Order the Pride of Russia. National Award to the Glory of the Fatherland in the Glory to Russia. Order the Glory of the Fatherland, 2nd Class, Other Awards and Titles, Honorary Citizen of, Belgorod, Vologda, Kaliningrad, Kaluga, Kemerovo, Nalchik, Perm. Arkalyk, Kremenchuk, Veliko Tarnovo, Vidin, Sveshtov, Ustinad Labum, San Antonio, Reward Edged Weapon a nominal officer Dirk Alexey Leonov, Commander of the Order of St. Anne 3 degree from the head of the Russian Imperial House Maria Vladimirovna Romanova, Commander of the Order of St. Anne 2 degree from the head of the Russian Imperial House Maria Vladimirovna Romanova, Honorary Member of the Russian Academy of Fine Arts. Legacy. Arthur C. Clarke's novel 2010, Odyssey 2 was dedicated to Leonov and Andrei Sakharov. The fictional spaceship cosmonaut Alexey Leonov in the book was named after him. Leonov wore a Russian Poljot FMWF Stylawatch chronograph during his historic first spacewalk. At an Apollo-Soyuz test project press conference, Leonov stated that, while in the United States for ASTP training, he wanted to visit Hollywood, because he had aspirations of being a movie star. Leonov, along with Rusty Skiakart, Vitaly Sevastyanov, and Georgy Grichko established the Association of Space Explorers in 1984. Membership is open to all people who have flown in outer space. In the Star Trek novel Destiny, Gods of Night there is a ship named the USS Alexey Leonov, which is sacrificed to save the planet Kvat from the Borg. Leonov is featured as a character in the 2013 Doctor Who comic book story Space Oddity, published by IDW Publishing. Stamps equals 1965, Alexey Leonov on Soviet Union 1965 stamp 10 Cox, Soviet Union 1965, 6 Cox, Soviet Union 1965 with Pavel Bilayev, Albania 1965 twice 6 and 20, with Pavel Bilayev, Albania 1965, Bulgaria 1965 with Pavel Bilayev, Bulgaria 1965 twice 2 and 20 St. Cuba 1965, twice, Czechoslovakia 1965, DDR 1965, DDR 1965, Hungary 1965, Togo 1965, Vietnam 1965, 1966, Bulgaria 1966 13 St, with Pavel Bilayev, Ecuador 1966, Mali 1966, twice, Mauritania 1966, 200 F, Niger 1966, 1967, Soviet Union 1967 with Andrew Sokolov. Series of 3 stamps, dedicated to the Day of Cosmonautics was carried out in March 1967, Soviet Union 1967 with Andrew Sokolov. Series of 5 stamps called Space Fiction saw the light in October 1967, 1969, Mongolia 1969, 1972, Soviet Union 1972 with Andrew Sokolov. Series of 6 stamps, dedicated to the 15th anniversary of the space age was out. Notes. References Leonov, Alexey Arkhipovich Sokolov, Andrea KZHDITE NAS, Zvezdy, the stars are awaiting us TH micron degree n, th squared micron n through 3/4 squared degree n euro n Moscow. Retrieved October 19, 2014. CS1 Maintenance, Unrecognized Language, Text and Captions in Russian and English. Table of Contents is in English. Album of Space Art. Scott, David. Alexey Leonov. Two Sides of the Moon, Our Story of the Cold War Space Race. With Christine Toomey. St. Martin's Griffin. ISBN 0-312-30866-3. Rincon, Paul. Lachman, Michael. The First Spacewalk: How the First Human to Take Steps in Outer Space Nearly Didn't Return to Earth. BBC News. BBC News. Archived from the original on October 14, 2014. Retrieved October 19, 2014. Testing of Rocket and Space Technology, The Business of My Life. Events and Facts, A.I. Ostashov, Korolev, 2001. 1. Bank of the Universe, edited by Boltenko AC, Kiev, 2014, Publishing House Phoenix, ISBN 978-966-136-169-9, A.I. Ostashov, Sergei Pavlovich Kirillaev, The Genius of the 20th Century, a Euro 2010 M of Public Educational Institution of Higher Professional Training, MGUL, ISBN 978-5135-0510-2. S. P. Korolev. Encyclopedia of Life and Creativity, edited by C. A. Lapotta, RSC Inaja. S. P. Korolev, 2014, ISBN 978-5-906674-04-3. External links: a video of his spacewalk, the Voskhod 2 mission revisited, science fiction art by Leonov and Sokolov. Extensive gallery, with annotation. I Could See Armstrong Bouncing on the Moon, a Euro Alexey Leonov.